Hello, WordNerds! Happy Sunday, and welcome to our monthly book club. This month, I left it on my shelf. Okay, someone else hold it up. Does anyone have it?
Mine's downstairs. Yay!
Mine's behind me somewhere. We're talking about Cruel Beauty by Rosamund Hodge. This one was recommended by Emma, who loves this book very, very much. And I think we're going to have some interesting conversations on this one. So we're going to go across, do a quick star rating, and a general what you thought, and we'll kind of go from there. So that's Kaylin, Emma, and Megan.
I am to be determined. I have not yet finished it. It's been slow going. I've wanted to put it down several times, but then I got to a point where it starts to get good. I have every intention on actually finishing it, which is like new for me. So, to be determined.
Emma.
5 stars. I reread it today, all in one day, and it was still as good as I remember it being.
I think I'm like a 4.5 to 5 stars. I gave it 5 in the moment. I can look back now and think that there are a few things that I would like to have seen done a little differently, but I really, really loved it.
For me, it was like a 3.5 to a 4, which is about where Erica was sitting as well. Erica and Erin are obviously not here. They're missing and we're just terribly.
Where are you?
So I had trouble getting into it. Like, there was nothing inherent that I didn't like about it, but for the first little while, I had to make myself pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
I really did like the world building. I thought the characters were interesting, and the rest we will discuss. So,
yeah, I definitely think that the beginning is slow. Like rereading it.
Yeah.
Like, because I think I remember the first time I read it. Like the first probably, I don't know, 90, 100 pages was the part that I went the slowest through, but then like it really picks up less than halfway into it.
I had a little bit of a hard time like getting into like the feel of the world.
Yeah,
it is really like it's medieval,
different
but it's
world.
like Greco-Roman, which you don't get as much, which I ended up loving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it has a lot of Greek
really
mythology going on.
Yeah, which I always love.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a standalone, which is like unheard of for a fantasy.
Way cool.
Okay, so do you want to start with the characters then? Specifically, Nyx.
I will have to agree with something that Kelly said in an email. Like, I emailed them the other day, and I was like, this is one of the most annoying characters. I was like, I would rather reread Twilight right now because I couldn't connect with her. And Kelly had a really good point. That she was written really well as a teenager, but like as our wise old age, you know, we're wanting to shake her and be like, what are you doing with your life? But looking at it through that perspective,
I also
like,
think.
looking at it with that perspective,
I think so much
like
for
going through this book.
Somebody delayed.
Reading with that perspective, I was able to enjoy it more, which is why I'm definitely going to continue reading it.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing about it for me with her character is that she's the way she was raised, because like her whole life she's just been told like your whole purpose in life is to die, to avenge your mother and save your sister and save the world, and we love your sister more than you, basically.
I know.
And, like,
so
she's a really bitter person.
Yeah.
I just wanted to reach the book and like smack him. I'm like, you are an evil person.
Because
like, most of her family I do not like.
As an adult, like we have siblings, whatever, and like you jump in front of a train for them now. But if you're raised your entire life, if you're dying so she can live,
right?
Yeah. And like you want to think you'd be okay with it, you know, but like your whole life and as a teenager, and like there'd be some serious resentment there. Erin! Were you napping dangerously?
Erin, what's your rating for the book?
My rating is probably 4 because I loved it, but I was like, it might just be me, but I was like slightly confused by the ending.
I think the ending was a little bit confusing, but I just kind of went with it. It was one of those.
Same.
I was like, I'm confused, but I'm just going with it because I like.
Because I want them together.
I wanted a happy ending, so I don't even care.
Pretty much. I'm glad I'm not the only one that was like slightly confused. So I'm like, am I just kind of stupid and I like don't really get how she broke the curse?
I reread it today, and I kind of understood the ending a little bit better this time. Like, I was like, okay, I kind of get it more. I think the first time I was reading it so quickly because I wanted to know what happened that I was like, I don't really know what's happening, but sure.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, it makes sense. It works.
I understood the ending of like the how she broke the curse, but like I'm so frustrated by the whole like we'll just rewrite history and none of that stuff ever really happened.
Oh, I was gonna have some serious issues. Like the way it ended, I was like, okay, I'm cool. But like just before that, I was like,
well, and I also thought just before the very ending, like when she remembers everything, I was like, this is going to I went back and found like my text to Megan when I first read it, and I like thought it was going to be like Pirates of the Caribbean 3. It was gonna be like they get to see each other once a year on this night at midnight, and I was like, this is gonna be awful.
That is not an acceptable compromise.
And then I read like the next page, and I was like, okay, we're good.
For you.
I totally thought that's what it was going to be like. Or that she just wouldn't remember any of it. And it was like, just go on with her life. I'm like, I remember it!
Like, that would have been almost, I would have liked it better maybe, that like it was an actual sacrifice. Like,
But she
like,
wouldn't
not
know.
that I disliked. Yeah, I know, but we know. We're the readers. She's not real. It's cool.
So it's our sacrifice.
I love happy endings. I've got to have the couple together in the end.
Too.
I would have been less satisfied if they put it
happy
together.
ending there.
So can I ask, because I haven't finished it?
I was gonna say, Caitlin doesn't know what
I'm like, what?
Well, I'm really intrigued. I'm like, wait a minute, are you guys talking about time travel? Like, what the hell is happening right now?
Oh,
Who did she end up with?
They're the same person.
I so called that. Did anyone else call that?
I called it.
I knew
I
something was wrong with Shade, but I didn't call exactly.
There are some cool twists at the end of the book, like when she figures everything out. It's really cool the way it's written. Like you're like, whoa! Like even though there were some things I was kind of like, I think they might be the same person. Like
so, like
it was cool.
I never guessed.
But what I remember, like she's constantly fixated. Like, and I guess I would be fixating on the fact that they have the same face too. But like I feel like every time they see each other, it's always that's the first thing she has to point out is that it's the same thing.
Yeah. So they're like basically it's the same person, but like two aspects of this personality.
And like Shade knows that they're the same person, but can't act like do anything, whereas Ignifex can act but doesn't know. So.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty clever.
I thought
that was a cool thing.
Huh.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting.
Oh, so he's
kind
not
of,
really
like,
hiding out in his room at night. Right?
Yeah.
He is.
He is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they stay as two separate people all the way till like.
Okay, that makes sense.
I was thinking that as well for a while. Like, have we seen them together? But we had, like, right at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think
and she's seen
interesting.
Ignifex at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's
like,
definitely seen him at night.
is afraid of the dark. Like that was like an excuse to get him out of the way, or does that actually come back as something important? Like, why is he so afraid of the dark?
It does come.
You find out.
You find out.
Okay, good. Because like at first I'm like, okay, that's got to redeem itself somehow because that's a little weird.
Yeah, there's a reason.
There's a very good reason. Yeah. And it comes into play like a major plot point.
See, now I'm going to finish reading the whole thing tonight, and I'm not going to sleep at all.
But actually, so we were talking right before Aaron got on. We were talking about Nyx's character, and something I was going to bring up because we were talking about like how much of her character is because of the way she was brought up.
Mm-hmm.
Because things get reversed at the end of the book, you get to see like a little glimpse of what she would have been like if she hadn't been raised that way. Like if she just didn't have a normal childhood.
That was cool.
And how she's not as like hateful and like not as bitter. And, her sister's cooler because of it. And
I mean, growing up with that pressure on top of everything else has got to be like.
We're going to sacrifice you, but if you could save the world
she was
first.
9 years old. She found out when she was 9.
And her sister just like was kept in the dark. That's the thing that gets me because her sister would be like, "Oh, do you remember how we dreamed about weddings?" And she's like, "I never dreamed about weddings," but she doesn't say that.
And she's just like, I felt like as much as she frustrated me sometimes, I could totally relate to her, like the way she would just bottle up all those like bitter thoughts because she didn't want to say them.
And I think that's why she has those kind of like they're almost like these wild, not mood swings, but like shifting between being so like really hateful and horrible and being like, oh, husband, and like because like this is her training.
Interesting contrast because you've got Ignifex who. There's him and Shade, and so you very distinctly see both parts of his personality in two separate people. But for her, you see them battling like in one person.
Which is cool because I really thought, you know, when I first started reading it, that cruel beauty, oh, it's about him and how he's beautiful, but he's cruel. And I'm like, no, it's really about her.
It's totally her.
Well. Yeah, which is really cool.
And something I think is really cool is like how, because it's a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and she's so different from the normal Belle. And actually, her sister is more like the traditional Belle in Beauty and the Beast, because she's the sweet one who, like, her father loves her, because it's always the father's favorite in the fairy tale. And like, she's the sweet and nice one who can see the best in everyone, but it's not that sister who's going like. That was really cool to see. And it was cool just to see a female character who isn't like a Mary Sue. She's not super nice, but she's also not like, oh, I'm really strong. Like, she really has a lot of weaknesses.
Yeah.
Deserve to stab him with a fork and then smash his face with a plate. So that's what he's herself to me. I'm like, all right, I'm starting to like you a little bit more now because she's like acting on those impulses a little bit in the way that I would think that she should.
And I really like as much as I usually hate the like, bad boy, whatever, like I love the relationship between her and him. Where he's like, you're my favorite because you're like alternately like trying to help me and trying to stab me with your fork. Like
and I like how she realizes like he's the first person to just love her like fully for who she is. Not like her destiny or what she is.
Can do.
Because everyone else who has loved her has thought she was nicer than she was, but he knows like what she's really like and he still loves her. And I was like, oh.
So
that's pretty cool.
One of the other things that came up in Kaylin's email was kind of the falling in love with your captor trope. So what do you think about how this was handled?
Stockholm.
Because Kaylin doesn't know yet how this was handled.
Yeah. How it ends.
Yeah. I would usually be the one that was like freaking out about that, like really verbally, but
she writes it really well.
Yeah, I wasn't irritated by it.
For Kaylin, like a lot of it wasn't his choice. He is not the big bad, so he is just a puppet in another thing. Like he doesn't pick the wife.
Which makes it way better too. And then finding out that there's another aspect to Shade's personality. He's not just black and white, good and evil either.
Yeah,
right?
like
that changes. Your
finding
mind
out that
too.
he killed a bunch of the wives, I'm like, oh
okay, so that puts. I think that's the main thing that kind of like skeeved me out a little bit with the whole, you know, the forced marriage. But it's okay, they fall in love. Like, he was so nonchalant about the wives. She asked, you know, how do they die? And like, he was totally nonchalant about it. And I'm like, am I supposed to like him right now? Or am I supposed to feel like I hate him?
Because he didn't kill most of the wives.
Yeah, the ones that guessed his name are the ones that were right, but the rest of them. Eventually, they find
he doesn't know how they really died.
Shade shoves her in, and like she could have died, and everyone else had died. But so Shade killed most of the wives.
And he's
in an attempt to save everybody. Like he did it with a purpose, but still was, you know. Not recommended behavior.
And I think what also like works with their romance so well is that they are both like so flawed and both have such a like bad side to them in a way, you know, that it's not just like the super like goody girl who like falls to the like evil captor, you know.
Exactly. It's not the good girl falling in love with the bad boy, it's the bad girl falling in love with the bad boy. And I like that.
Yeah, like they're worthy adversaries basically.
And for the most part, like I don't know too much about like how his story like started out, but like she's not just like a rebel without cause. Like she's a product of her environment. The way that she grew up like made her this way. So that was refreshing.
And I actually like somebody said that she was whiny, and I was like, I think I would have been whinier. Like I was angry reading the book how her father treated her, and she would just be like, "Yes, father." I'd be like, "Her aunt, oh my god."
Like the scene just before she left out. She was stressed and she was alone in the room with her sister, and that's when like she comes out and tells her sister the truth. And at first I was so mad. I'm like, why would you do that? But then like I sat down and I thought for a minute. I'm like, no, I would totally do the same thing. At that moment,
especially to a sibling. Like how often have you just said something mean because you're having a fight and you're frustrated and like and she's
like I'm about to go die for you.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to know the truth. Like you should have known the truth from the beginning.
Not to mention that her sister's all like, oh, yay, like, smiling and happy, and she's like, I'm going to my best. Like,
yeah. And then I also, because her sister, I was just kind of like ambivalent towards at the beginning, because I was like, it's not really her fault, it's the family's fault. I hated her later in the book.
Me too.
When she comes together with her again, I'm like, you know nothing about what's going on. It's just like stuff you've read in the books, like.
Yeah.
Because she's
it was the same thing.
she's like, I mean, it all turns out okay in the end, but she's the one that propels her to like make such hasty decisions at the end.
I was also annoyed with the dead lady, like her mom, that was like so desperate to have a child that she tried to commit suicide.
Yeah, because they keep going on about we have to avenge our mother. We have to avenge our mother, and like they talk about it being their father's fault and how he like made a bad deal and everything, but they never talk about the fact that like their mother was totally culpable in it too. You know,
crazy person. Yeah.
See, the way that I took that though, it wasn't. She didn't try to kill herself because she couldn't have children. I took that as she tried to kill herself because she couldn't give her husband a child. And I'm like, I mean, that's I think how it was like medieval. Like they were very like
and it talks about later in the book.
But at the same time, it's like, ugh.
Yeah, it talks about later in the book how the aunt gives him a son. And
how she's even better than her sister because she's
better than her sister because
she feels like she's better than her sister.
From her.
Yeah.
You know it's a good book when the characters like frustrate you, but not in a like way that they're badly written frustrating you, in a way that they're
really well written.
You hate them.
Umbridge characters.
The Umbridge effect.
And it was cool to see Nyx kind of being like her own Umbridge sometimes. Like sometimes I was like, just stop that right now. Put your shirt back on. Calm down.
I thought those scenes were funny, like partly funny, partly frustrating. When she was like, "Oh, husband" or whatever. She only did that once, I think.
Yeah.
But he was always like, "Go away."
The second time she takes her clothes off in front of him is when they've actually fallen in love with each other.
Right. Yeah.
And I love that scene. I was rereading it because like I do like that because it could have like rapey captor type thing, but he does like if you're like. Because I was really paying attention for it, it's like totally consent in it. Like she makes a good show of the fact that there is consent there. Because he's like, he asks her in that scene, he's like, "Will you be my wife?" You know, even though they're like already married. So like, based on that culture, he could have had whatever he wanted, but he like asked her if she would be his wife and stuff.
And I like too that he always said like every night it was the same thing. "Do you want to guess my name?" "No." "Okay, good night." You know, and there was
he'll like kiss her on the cheek and that's it.
Yeah. Like there were a few things where he would like sneak up behind her and like kiss the back of her neck, and I felt like it was like more like mocking or taunting than in kind of like weird sexual.
Because she would do the same things where like he walked in the room and she like props her like breasts up on the table and stuff, you know, like. And then he's like, "Did you learn that from your aunt?" And oh my gosh, what is that? To find a quote because it's so funny.
And then she's angry because she did actually learn it from her aunt.
Yeah. He said something about like a stray cat wouldn't be tempted by her or something.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah, I'm like I didn't like her from the beginning, and like there was one scene where I think maybe it was when they first met in that corridor place, but like in italics she was thinking about what her aunt told her, and it was something like he'll like it if he thinks you're helpless, and I'm like, screw you, lady.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Oh yeah, so he says, "And was it your aunt who taught you? Because between you and me, I'm fairly sure that a lonely cat could resist her charms." I was like, yes.
Oh, I hated the aunt.
Yeah,
so
she was vile.
Yeah.
Awful. Ugh. Like in the scene when she takes her into the bedroom and is like instructing her on like just like lie there and bear it or something if you can't. I don't know.
Try and move your hips, lie there if you can't.
Okay, lady.
And how like I'm just like so impressed by the things that she like held back, saying that like all these years she's like known that her aunt is sleeping with her dad, and she like hasn't said anything. I'm like, man, I would have said something by then.
Yeah,
I would have said something a long time ago.
Finally says something at the end. I was like, yes.
Like I think she wrote the product of the times very very well of like the training young girls for sex and like not talking, but also not talking about who anyone's sleeping with, and like the medieval element was handled really nicely. I think.
Well, I know
really being medieval.
She has a master's degree in medieval English from Oxford.
Oh,
so, there you go. I was like, wow.
She knows her stuff.
Fancy.
Fancy.
And I think it was cool because Ignifex, he encouraged almost the very opposite of like what her culture and how Nyx had been raised like to believe. So it's like almost like we hated the whiny parts of her, and then like as she like was with him longer, she learned that like I can be a badass. Like I can handle this. Like,
and I like how like even though like they both had like bad parts.
Oh.
We're losing you.
Okay.
Oh no.
We haven't gotten anything you said yet.
No.
You
Oh, wait, you might be good now.
You're frozen in a kissy face, though.
Okay, I think we're like Say it again.
Oh, at the end when she goes back to her sister, because her sister says something about like, oh, and once we kill him, you'll be free of him, and she like chews her sister out, and she's basically like, if it weren't for loving him, like I would have never come back to see you again, and I never would have gone to Mother's grave again. Like he taught me to like love people again, and not hate everyone. That was cool.
Aww.
Even though they're both they bring out the good in each other. That's cool.
I need to just buy this book.
I know, right?
Is there going to be a sequel?
No.
No.
The sequel is confusing. Well, not sequel,
Yeah,
but...
she has another book with a similar cover, but it's like a separate universe, separate story.
Okay, not even
but
like
it's another
similar
fairy
cover,
tale
like...
retelling. Yeah, the same cover.
Like it's a sequel cover.
Yeah, it's another fairy tale retelling. It's Red Riding Hood,
but not in the same world at all.
Yeah.
So is it like the same series but different retellings?
Not same
I'm
series.
wondering if she's. I'm kind of wondering if she's just planning on.
Exactly.
That's what we were talking about before. I'm wondering if she's planning on just doing like a lot of retellings, and maybe they'll all be separate worlds, but like in a way it'll be like a series because they're all retellings, but very.
And like they're not working on the
same
series,
characters.
and they like make a point of saying it's not.
Yeah, it's not a series.
Dude, it's just an author who's writing retellings, but whose publisher isn't giving her unique covers. Because they're a really nice cover.
I'll be more cool with it if she writes more retellings that aren't connected to these ones, and they still have similar covers. Because then it'll be like, oh, she's a line of retellings, you know?
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
like,
that'd be
someone
cool.
has something like that out
That'd be
now,
cool.
where they're not all in the same universe, but it's like a series, but of just retellings. I don't know if it is though.
Is it the Once Upon a Time books that are all
I'm
by
not
different
sure.
authors? I don't know.
No, it was the
Those are
same
kind of
author,
older.
same author.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jackson Pierce has a whole bunch of retellings, and their covers they don't look the same, but it's the same kind of illustrations. I'm disappointed. I really would have liked to see those characters again, and I feel like there would be like more. Like I don't know. It was really complicated world.
Yeah,
I'm really happy to have a standalone. I guess if it was another book in the same world, I'd be cool with that,
like
but I don't want to revisit
like
these
sister
characters.
or something. Like,
I don't want to revisit these characters or this story.
I wouldn't mind.
They're happy. I don't want to see them struggle anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Same as I thought about Deep Book and Stars. I was like, I don't want to get stuff.
Yeah.
And I really want to like support when authors write standalone fantasy books because it doesn't happen often enough.
Yeah, that's true.
Thanks.
Well, it's so rare because people usually want a sequel.
Yeah.
Okay, my question is, do we ever get like a full out like description of what Ignifex actually looks like? Because like I said, I'm only 137 pages in, but the only thing I've got so far was when the first dinner, when she goes in and she sees him flying into the room, and like she says for a moment he looks human, but then he steps closer into the light and she sees his eyes. But I got the feeling that's the only thing different, is that he has a big tuft of hair, but he has a pale neck, and like, so is he human with weird eyes and big hair?
Yeah, he's
like,
human with weird eyes, because she describes him
and
when she first wakes up in the tower. Yeah, she just talks about he has a beautiful face, sharp nose, high cheekbones, tousled ink black hair.
Emma's on this.
Yeah,
I just reread it. And the
like
softness of a man just out of boyhood. So yeah, he just looks like a man.
I had to read the description twice when she first wakes up, and he's like nestled on her.
People laying on her, basically.
Like,
I thought
think
he was like
off.
covered in hair.
That's what I thought. I was totally thrown off.
You're thinking the beast hair everywhere.
She describes it in like thick, heavy blankets, and like something tickled her neck.
Yeah.
And then when she moves, the blankets move, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, so he's human, just with hair on his
covered
head.
in fur.
So he's
like Cousin It, or
yeah, that's what I thought. Like I thought a beast from
That's
like
not
the
sexy.
Disney cartoon.
Same.
I'm like, so he's really a beast.
It's YA. The beast is always pretty.
Just the way, the blankets moved. I was like, he's like a blanket? Like,
like she describes it like a cat.
So
like
disoriented, she can't tell the difference between a blanket and a person at first.
She even describes it as cat-like, and his head rested on her shoulder, and I'm like, all right.
Tickling.
That point where she describes it as like a lazy cat, I just like imagine, like a panther.
It's just straight across her shoulder.
Or like one of those throw rugs at IKEA that like still look like the animal, like I'm imagining like that kind of blanket across her.
Effects.
And then I was just like, ew, it's really gonna be like the beast. And she like
Then it turns out he's really hot.
Like, I can't handle that.
Oh dear. No, I had to read that 2 or 3 times, and I was like, okay.
I did. I read that a couple times.
He's not a hairy beast. Oh dear. Yeah, I don't think I could get into that.
It would have to be done really well, I think. I feel like maybe if like Sarah J. Maas tried it, like I trust that she could do it. Or like Rainbow Roll.
I don't know. If it was like always descriptions of how hairy he was, it'd be like,
I know.
Sarah J. Maas would somehow make him like a super hot shirtless guy somehow, because she makes everyone a hot shirtless guy. I don't know how she does it.
Not that I'm not down for that, but I doubt you could do it with like an actual beast from Disney. Like even in the cartoons, I was like, ooh, can we like transform into human already? As cute as this is.
There would never be a problem with Aaron and bestiality, never.
What a relief.
I'm happy to know this.
Rest assured.
It's good to know.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for it. I'm like, all right, so is it going to have like this magnificent change and then they fall in love? But then she kept saying his neck is pale, and like that's when she described his cheekbones as being high. I'm like, so he's not a ball of fur, so that's good to know too.
At least his neck isn't.
And she does say that
anything else.
That same part where she first wakes up, he says something about like if he was human, she would think he was a gentleman, but then she sees his eyes or something. So looks like a person, but with weird eyes.
Slitted cat eyes.
That's the only animal thing, or the cat eyes.
Of course, you get a little bit of like Magnus Bane.
Yeah, that's right. Because we all know slitted cat eyes are sexy.
Because of this book, Megan and I discovered that there's no like hot shirtless dude emoji on the iPhone, and we're really disappointed. We really need to for like effects.
What the heck?
We're like, why isn't there one?
Somebody needs to take care of that.
Yeah, it needs to exist. At least for like YA authors or readers or something.
Can you imagine if there's an emoji line for readers or YA authors?
Oh, we need to get on that.
Little typewriter emoji. There probably is one of those.
If there isn't, we need to do it. Get my husband to draw them. Or Emma's husband. Can't Michael draw?
Yeah, he can draw first.
Yeah, won't be me. Mine would be stick people emojis.
Shirtless stick figure dude.
He's shirtless, I swear.
Actually, he's naked. You just can't tell.
Okay, so I have a question. Something that kind of stuck out to me as a little weird was when Shade first brought her to the Heart of Water, and she kissed him, and then all of a sudden he could talk, and like she was asking him why. He's like, oh, because you kissed me. Like, Is there a reason for that, or is that literally the only reason why he could talk?
I think that's literally the only reason.
Okay. Because it happened, I'm like, well, that's okay, that's cool.
Because later he's like nearly dead, and she revives him by kissing him. So I guess because she has like real life in her, maybe she can like impart some of that too. I don't know.
Mentions later that Shade kisses all his wives.
Yeah. He tries to steal all the wives. Yeah.
Tries to steal the wives.
I was gonna say, like, I really like how she set up the first kiss between them, like, because I think prior to that meeting, Ignifex told her something along the lines of, "I can wait as long as I want and still have all of you." So that's why she kisses Shade, like, to take that away from him. But she didn't really, because they're the same person. But I kind of liked how that was set up, and it wasn't like, "Oh, you're cute, let's kiss." Like, that was set up well. I did like that.
Yeah. And I like that she actually has like guilt when she's like, okay, I kissed Shade and I'm kissing him, instead of being like, oh, it's fine. Like I feel like it's a lot of YA.
I think kissing both is fine, but she feels guilty around like each of them. Yeah.
Like a lot of YA is just like, whatever.
I shouldn't, but I'm going to anyway. Like, I feel like
when you're with them.
up until this point, like, she's refraining from kissing him again. Like, she wants to, but she doesn't. Yeah. And I'm like, you have the willpower, and I did like that out of the character.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't spend a lot of time smooching.
Kissing?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a decent amount of smooching with her and Ignifex. And it's good. She writes good romance scenes.
Yeah. I did think for a while that she was going to take it like Shade was fully going to be the love interest and it was going to like completely destroy the fall in love with your captor thing. So I thought that was going to be interesting, but then she took it in a completely unexpected direction, which is cool.
I kind of didn't really like Shade from the beginning.
I didn't trust him.
I have a weird feeling for him.
Yeah. I was like, I liked him, and I wanted to trust him, but I just felt like I couldn't.
Yeah, I feel like my big problem with him, like, as a potential love interest, is that, like, the things he said to her were so similar to the things that her family said to her.
Yeah.
So it's like, he liked her and appreciated her for the same reasons her family did, because she's going to rescue him and all this stuff. And that's not
she's the only hope.
That's
what he kept saying.
Yeah. And, like,
I
did like when she realized that, like, Ignifex isn't asking her to die for him, whereas Shade really, really is.
Trying to kill her.
That's kind of a good point in a love interest.
Well, Shade straight up says, "Are you prepared to die for it?" And she's like, "Yeah."
Are you prepared to die for me? And stuff, Like everyone wants her to die for them except for Ignifex.
Yeah. Which is like, I feel like somebody that's actually in love with you is going to be like, there has to be another way. Like, even if you're saving the world, there has to be another way because I can't lose you. Rather than just being like, are you cool to die?
I don't know, to be fair, she's willing to, like, end him to save the world in the end.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. She doesn't like that she has to do it. But
yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's why... Go ahead.
Oh, no. Oh, you go ahead.
Okay, no, I was like, I think that's why I was going in kind of not feeling the romance from either aspect, because as far as I'm in there now, it was like the, in love with your captor thing, which I was like, eh. And then with Shade, it was like, do we have another Edward Cullen on our hands? Because he's able to, like, glide along the walls and just spy on her at every possible moment. And I'm like, I have to deal with that later. Like, how is that going to play out? But, like, I've never really gotten into his character
I felt like that, too, with Shade, because, like, a couple of times it mentioned she felt like someone was watching her. Or, like, there was something in the room or something, and I was like, Shade is not nearly as cool as I thought he was. Creepy bastard. Yeah, I want to read it again. I really feel like I gotta read the ending again.
Yeah, the ending is cool. It's really cool, because basically the whole, like, point of the book and, like, the kindly ones, who are the ones that are behind everything, is that, like, they leave hints everywhere, and they're always fair, and, like, there's the answer is always there, but you don't know where to look for it. And so it's cool, like, when you get to the end and she starts, like, it's all the, like, rhymes and the songs and the myths and the legends that she like, all the clues were there in those stories. And it's cool how they all, like, click together at the end. Like, the part that was weird was just, like, how she got to bring him back to the, like, world instead of being a ghost. That was the part where I was like, what? But the whole, like...
kindness?
How everything else worked out, though, was, like, blowing my mind, and I loved it. And stuff. Like, I really loved when she goes to at the very end, so she like time's been reset, and it's just like the normal autumn festival, and she's like the pretend bride for the Tom Malone hedge god or whatever, and like she realizes that his story and the story of the prince are like all the same story, and the clues are there, and she knows his name. It was really cool how that all clicked together.
Yeah, that was really cool.
And how she's the bride that everyone has been representing for all these years. She's the
Yeah.
bride. Yeah.
It was very cool. But definitely confusing to me. I think
it was a lot in like a very short amount of pages.
Yeah. Really quickly how that everything until like the very end made like total sense to me.
Yeah.
And at the very end where it's like, because of kindness you like make it. I was like, what? I'm so confused.
A handful of kindness. Yeah. And it was like too much kindness for the kindly ones or whatever. I was like, yeah.
What? Do you have that much kindness inside of you, Nyx? Really?
Yeah.
I thought they were gonna be like forever in the darkness or whatever, and they're like the creepy things are like stripping her down to bare bones or whatever, but they're together, and I'm like, that sounds horrible anyways. Like, I thought it was going to continue to be a thing. So.
Yeah, I guess it's because like they were both willing to like take the consequences of a bargain without getting any benefit from a bargain, like because they're both like, we'll just both go into darkness together because we want to be together, and we don't need like, you know, we don't need a bargain to do that. We'll just take the consequence or whatever, and that was like, I guess because it was like so much love and so much kindness.
And I kind of get that if they take the consequences of the bargain but not the actual bargain, the consequences wouldn't stick because there was like, it wasn't fair, and the kindly ones are supposed to be fair.
Yeah, so. When you think about it, it is a very fairy tale-ish ending. Like, it is very like, the beast whirls in a whirlwind of glitter, and then he's a man.
And because they both loved each other enough to like take the bad part of a bargain without the good part of a bargain, and like they're able to make it through and come back out on the other side and all that.
It's very interesting because it was the Beauty and the Beast retelling, but I also felt there was a lot of like Rumpelstiltskin in there because there's like
the name,
my name, right? And like the bargains and stuff.
Yeah, and there's the Bluebeard with the wives, all the dead wives in one room together.
It reminds me of like Once Upon a Time because they did the same mashup, right? With Belle
Beauty and the Beast and
Rumpelstiltskin,
And then there's like all the Greek mythology that's like woven into the story with like Persephone. And all that.
That was super interesting.
I think that's what made it really stand out, was just like, it was like you kind of recognized the story, you kind of knew she was going to fall in love with the bad guy, but at the same time it was like all these different stories. I didn't know the Bluebeard myth through and through, and I remember Rumpelstiltskin, but only like the children's book version. So it was cool.
It was really interesting. I kind of almost wanted her to like turn into like a bad girl, and then like be in the castle together, and they would like make bargains together, and then she'd be like sorceress, like evil queen.
The first time that she like
seeing, like everyone's writing styles in this, I was like, I would just leave them apart, and I would be the bad guy.
No, there's like the part where she like is in the room while he's doing a bargain, and she like has her hands on the back of his chair, and I was like, I just want this to be their lives, like they're like do bargains and be. I was totally with you, Aaron. Totally with you on that. I was like, don't fight it, honey. Just like be bad with him. Don't care about any of your stupid family members or the rest of your world. They don't like you.
They're evil.
They don't deserve your help. So screw them.
They kind of didn't. That's why I was kind of like willing to be like, screw them. Just like, and then like the bargain thing is like kind of intriguing. Like, because really the people that come bargain with them are like kind of shitty people.
They're like, interesting how they got into that.
Yeah, like the one guy that was just like, I want you to kill my love's husband so I can marry her. Like, you're a shithead. You get what you deserve. Like,
they like
Isn't that like slightly a biblical story too? Doesn't someone want someone's wife and send them off to war?
David and Bathsheba.
Yes, He saw her fainting on the rooftop, and it goes badly for him too, doesn't it?
Yes.
I thought it did. Yeah.
Wife stealing generally
Mine
goes
is
poorly.
eternal damnation.
Generally goes poorly, yes.
Yeah, and it's interesting how he talks about, like, yeah, the husband was, like, abusive, but, like, the main problem of the guy who was like, I want you to kill him, is that he wouldn't do it for himself. Like, he didn't want to get his hands dirty, so he asked the demon to do it for him, you know?
Which is why there's the punishments with all the bargains, because he's doing the dirty work.
Yeah. Like, everyone who comes knows the consequences, and they still do it anyway.
It's interesting as well that he said that she would have got smallpox anyways.
Yeah.
Like, somehow he knows.
See, I had assumed that she already had it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the husband dies immediately after they make the bargain, so she already has the infection.
So it's almost like Inglefex didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, really. It's just like these are the natural consequences of, like, your decisions, you know.
See, but he was slick, though, because he did make it seem like, okay, you're going to go blind 3 days after she comes to your house. Like, that was the punishment that he would have to pay.
Which is what smallpox does too.
Yeah, so smallpox probably.
Yeah. So he just got smallpox too.
Right.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I thought the deals and bargains were really interesting.
We've got a question from Nat. Thanks for watching, Nat. He asked, we touched on this really, really slightly at the beginning, but not a ton. But this is something that I've seen people on Goodreads complain about, too, about, like, insta-love between Nyx and Shade. And so he was wondering if it bothered any of us.
I definitely felt that. I did like, however, that it wasn't insta-love between her and Ignifex, because that's what I expected out of the whole captor love thing.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy how that's just slow go. But with Shade, like, she did, like, I don't know, because, like, I'm always iffy when it comes to insta-love, because I haven't gotten to the point where they say the L word yet, like, if they do. But, like, I feel like she kissed him, he's cute, like, she's 17,
he's being nice to her in a very tense situation.
Yeah. Where she, like, she hasn't had anyone in her life like that before.
Exactly.
So it's new.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm looking at it through that.
It doesn't work out, too. That's, like...
Right. So, like, she might not be in love with him. She might be infatuated with him because it's, like, a new guy, you know?
Instant infatuation is very much a thing.
Yeah, it's very much a thing.
I definitely agree.
And part of it, like, Sorry, you go first.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I agree that, like, because she's in such, like, a crappy situation, and then he's, like, this really gentle, sweet guy, she would cling to him, like, probably in any way she possibly could. Yeah. But I was expecting insta-love between her and her captor, same as Kaylin, so I was just relieved that there was none of that. I think initially there's only, like, one line where it's, like, she looks at his, like, throat or whatever, and is like lustful or something for like a second.
That's not even like insta love. That's insta
love.
That's a completely different thing.
He's really beautiful. That's what that is.
Yes, he's gorgeous.
For me, I was kind of like, whoa, girl, what are you doing? But it also kind of led to me distrusting him. Like I was like, she's interested in him really quickly.
And the fact that he so instantly was like basically saying he was in love with her and stuff, I was like, I don't trust him. So I think it's intentional. You know, the insta love was intentional.
He seemed a lot more into her, like really into her, and I think it kind of threw you off a little bit because, and I was thinking that as like I was reading on the page too, how he said, don't trust me completely because I still serve him, and she made the observation was. So that means he's a good guy because he was a bad guy. Then he would tell me that I could trust him completely. Yeah. But then I'm like, I don't know. There's still something.
And it all kind of works even more once you realize that Shade just steals wives left, right, and center. So like, this is par for the course with him. It's not she's such a special snowflake and we're to be together. It's just new wife, all right.
Yeah. And I do like that. Like, I like that they're. I do like that there were things that she liked about him because she talks about at the end Ignifex is not just Ignifex, like he's the both of them, both the personalities combined. And when he comes back as Marcus or whatever his name is, the prince's name, she like talks about how like she loved Ignifex and there were things about Shade that she like loved. And like, but like now it's this new person that's a combination of the both, and she has to like learn to. She knows she loves him, but she has to learn to love him.
Yeah, and she's also now.
Yeah, they're both different, and she's like lived these two lives now because of
exactly. She remembers her old life, but she's lived a new life and is a different person because of
there's a cool part where they're like cuddling on the grass, and she's like, a part of me knows that I've like done everything with him, and the other part of me has never even like held hands with the guy. So this is really weird.
How weird would that be?
That would be bizarre. Like you have memory you've never actually done. Like weird.
We have another question from Rose. Thanks for asking questions, Rose. He wanted to know if any of us had, and if so, what was your favorite quote from the book? Like, if there were any favorite sayings.
I'm bad about writing these down.
I feel like I had one when I was reading it earlier today, and I don't remember what it was. There was something that I really liked.
Her writing is beautiful.
So beautiful.
Yeah, but like, do you get bogged down in how pretty it is? It's beautiful, but it flows really nicely.
Yeah, there were a couple parts that were like a little bit too much for my taste, but for the most part, it was just incredible.
Yeah, because it wasn't like overdone. I mean,
for me, it was mostly just overdone.
I really like that line. Yeah.
When it was like a ton of world building.
Oh, in the beginning. That was way too much info dumping for me in the beginning.
There was. Like, I kept reading, and I'm like, I feel like it's info dump. Like, I'm trying to focus on, like, the action of what she's doing at the time, and I couldn't remember it. And that's when you know there's too much info dump, because it was just constant.
I was actually really surprised when I first started it, because I was like, if I sent this to an agent, they'd be like, no. Like, there's way too much info dumping in the beginning. Well, even if I sent it to a beta reader, they'd be like, you need to cut all of this and weave it in later.
Right.
I think part of the issue is because it's pretty different. So if you get too far in without the information, you start to assume it's one way. So even if they tell you it's the other way later, it's like, well, I've read half the book, and this is how it is.
Yeah. I have no idea how she would do it differently, so I get, like, it's necessary, but I was just, like, really bewildered, because I haven't come across that in a published book in a long time.
Because I think that was one thing, I remember Erica, she said that, like, she felt there was a lot of world building that wasn't necessary, but I felt like all of it was necessary.
Yeah.
Like, it was hard to get through because it was all in one spot, but I felt like because it was all this stuff about how, like, it was all in the details, and it was the details you didn't notice, like, you needed all these stories to, like, understand.
Well, the things that come later wouldn't be shocking unless you knew the initial mythology of the world and what they believed in.
What they think happened.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So if she hadn't put that in there in the beginning, I don't know what else she would have done. Like, it wouldn't have.
Yeah, I feel like I would have gotten confused. I mean, like, it was kind of hard to get through, but at the same point, it was like such a different world that I was enjoying it, because, like, I don't know, because it was, if it had just been like a typical fantasy world, I'd been like, cool, like, this is every fantasy world, and you're explaining it to me.
Yeah.
But it was so different that, like, I kind of enjoyed getting that whole Greek background and everything.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, like, what made the info dump more apparent was all of the really difficult names to remember. That kind of, like, threw me for a loop, because I'm really bad at pronouncing names. I'm terrible at it. Which is why I waited to say Igdifex before someone else said it, because I didn't know how to pronounce it. But there's a lot of really complicated names in this one.
Yeah, there really were.
Yeah, and they just threw, like, in the info dump, they threw a lot of the different words in, like, the sundering and like, just
I do feel like I wrapped my head around most of that quickly enough. It's just
that was another thing. I was really able to understand the world. Like, I wasn't confused by it really. Like, it was very strange, but I got it. So that was good.
Yeah.
Like, the whole idea of the sky kind of, like, confused me even now. Like, but she explains it as a dome, but I don't think she literally meant she's in a dome. But I do think that, not the whole world isn't under Parchment Sky. Like, it's just maybe her area, because she does talk about how she thinks that Igdifex is able to go outside of their, little world to see, like, the actual blue sky.
There's an answer. There's a
all of that will be answered.
I take it to mean
I'm
her
really
land
excited to read that now.
Her land is cut off by the sundering.
Yeah.
So her whole land is under this Parchment Sky.
Okay.
It goes more into the sundering here, and then
because they were part of the Greco-Roman Empire basically, and, like, their portion was, like, cut off. from the rest of the world under the
But
skin.
you get some more details of it. But,
yeah, you find out like why and all sorts of stuff.
Like, even though this came from, like, her D-bag father, like, and I don't really know exactly what he meant by it, maybe it gets a little bit more, like, as I'm going to read it, but he said, study the sky, but never love it, or something like that, and that was one quote that kind of stuck with me. I did like that.
That was a cool part.
But yeah, his character is the worst. I couldn't stop hating him so bad. The whole carriage ride, I'm just like, slap him, just slap him, just slap him.
Yeah. I love that he didn't get, like, to redeem himself or say, you know, I'm so sorry, I made a horrible mistake.
Yeah.
When she goes back.
And
like, no, you suck.
Yeah. And I was noticing that even, like, when time resets and they haven't grown up in the exact same situation, he's still, like, not, like, a super, like, nice guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's, like, still like, really distant, not affectionate, and her sister's still a favorite and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was cool to see, like, even if she was raised differently, there were still parts of, like, everyone was still themselves for the most part.
Yeah. They were just, like, less pulled into the extremes that their lives had taken them before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was all handled really nicely.
Yeah. Which I think is, like, a cool thing to see, because I think sometimes, like, when I'm, like, reading a book, I'm like, I would never act like that. But it's like, or, like, no one would act like that. But, like, we don't know what people would act like in these situations because they don't really happen. You know?
And that's one of those things, too. Like, you can sit here and think about a certain situation. Like, let's say getting mugged. And you could say, oh, I would do this, this, and this. But, like, in that moment, you could be so frozen with fear, you do nothing. So you don't know how you would react until you're in that moment.
So it was really cool to see, like, what their characters are like when they're, like, raised in that situation and when they're not, because when they weren't, you could see them as, like, oh yeah, I totally know people that act like this, you know, like, there's people who totally act like this, and so, like, you got to see what those types of people would be like in these weird situations.
Yeah.
Like, her aunt is still like, oh, I finally get to one-up my sister who always overshadowed me because I'm having a boy, you know.
Well, like her aunt sucks, but like that sucks for her aunt too, because like her dead sister is like everywhere in this house, and like all her.
Like, that's where you get you're hooking up with your dead sister's husband.
Yeah, I feel like it balances out.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely balances out.
Yeah.
She's awful person. Well, so is he. Like, he's just the worst person
they
ever.
were well matched.
Worst person ever.
Yeah. Because it's like, you know, like, I have read stories where, like, you know, maybe the mother has died and the father remarries her sister or something, and it's totally, like, fine, but it was their characters that were so awful about it, because they, like, were hiding it and sneaking about it. And
sneaking about it, that they know it's not that cool.
Although in the new version of their lives, they don't.
Married, But they do sneak until they get married, because her sister's really mad when they announce the marriage.
Oh, yeah.
So I kind of got the idea that they'd been sneaking around, and then they're like, actually, we're in love and getting married.
I like that her sister in the new version is kind of more like less shy, and
it's like both of them balance out a little bit more.
Yeah. I will always root for a good sister relationship if I can.
And it doesn't happen. It don't feel like it happens that much in YA. Like, not as much as it could.
Yeah, I like
usually like the comparison of like, oh well, this one's good, this one's bad, or these ones clash, or this one's pretty and this one's ugly.
Or she's living in her sister's shadow. Like, yeah.
Well, that's us at around the hour mark. So, any more questions or?
Nat shared his favorite quote. Nat the Ninja said that his favorite quote was, "I had been waiting all my life for someone undeceived to love me."
Oh, cool.
That's cool. I like that.
I love that.
That's kind of the whole point of the romance of this book.
And it just like describes both of them so well.
Yeah, neither of them had to be somebody they weren't. Yeah.
I wish I definitely need to write down my favorite quotes when I find them, but I never do. The writing was beautiful.
Yeah,
I really liked, just in general, like the different like rhymes and songs that came up multiple times and they like tied in and stuff. Like there's like the one, at her very first like wedding to him when they talk about like the gifts of love return, and she's like, oh, this is basically like a cruel gift of my father's love for my mother that's like returning to like get me. And then like at the end when she's having the fake wedding, they sing that again and they give her the ring, and she's like, oh, the gifts, like he gave this to me in love and it's back and now I remember him. So it's cool how that like came full circle from like the horrible gift. Yeah, I know that's the part that like I like shiver every time, because it goes from like the cruel gifts of love that she has to deal with the consequences to like this like true love item that she has.
That's the type of stuff that makes me so jealous, because I'm like, I can never think of cool stuff.
Yeah, tie something together like that. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, that was like, I remember that was my favorite part both times I read it, was when they sing like the gifts of love shall return and she like gets the ring and you're like, oh my gosh, it's the ring.
Yeah, unless anyone else can think of a favorite quote. I should have written it down. The whole book. That was my favorite quote.
Yeah.
There are a few like of my favorite like dialogues back and forth was between him and her. Like when they were initially sort of like kiss you, kill you type relationship. And then like I can't remember like one of the times when she says like, oh, I'll figure out a way to kill you later. Or it was like something along those lines.
Well, there was even like after the first time they like get together and everything, she's like, I'll still probably kill you, and he's like, I know, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
It's like much later she says to him like,
it reminds me of Princess Bride, where he's like, I'll probably kill you in the morning. Do you remember that part? With the Dread Pirate Roberts.
Yep.
No? Okay. Sleep tight, I'll probably kill you in the morning.
Well, thanks for all the comments, everyone. Normally we don't get that many comments during a book club chat, so that's really exciting. Keep reading the book clubs.
Yeah.
And next month we already have our book picked, and that's going to be The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey.
Rick Yancey.
Yeah.
So get started reading that.
You should read it because it's a really good book.
And Caleb really likes this one.
A movie here. And I do. I like this one, so it's like I'm going to be really excited.
Yeah.
I know going in that I'm going to like it. Because I already read it.
It's being filmed 30 minutes from where I am right now, so like 30 minutes from my hometown.
Ooh, that's cool. So who's going to be the Simon Cowell of the group this time then? Because Caitlin's going to like it.
I know, I haven't read it yet.
I thought it was just meh, but I'm not going to be here next month. So.
See, I'm going to be the Paula Abdul. I'm going to be like, I'm going to love everything. Nothing can go wrong.
I'll just like read it and intentionally hate it, so me and Caitlin can talk.
There you go.
Switch it on.
I'll just like come up with things to hate, even if I actually like it.
Just make up stuff like, oh, I hate that sandwich.
Like when that clown came in, can you believe it? Some clown in the plane.
There was instant love between her and the alien.
Yeah, like it's aliens and the zombies came in. Like what?
I just hate lots of explosions, so.
The first or the fifth wave had a bunch of really cool book trailers. So if you want to check those out, they're really good. There was like a book trailer for each wave. So those are really, really good watches.
And that's March 29th.
March 29th. I can't believe it's March already.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm not ready.
No.
All right, guys, let's call it a night. Thanks for watching, and we will see you all next week talking about something.
Bye.